In the East, alchemists believed that if they ingested a certain sacred substance, they would achieve immortality. Women were foundational in this esoteric art. Step with me into the magical, mystical world of Eastern alchemy, where women formed the very basis of this cosmology. So, in China, Uh, alchemy has its roots back to about 300 BCE. So Yin is considered the founder of Taoist alchemy. At that time, they mixed mercury and other elements, usually sulfur, to make cinnabar, which was basically liquid gold. And drinking the liquid gold, they believed they would achieve immortality. Well, we have records that they died doing this, but you got to remember if you were raised in the Western world like I was, in the East, the purpose of life is to reach immortality by breaking the cycle of samsara, the cycle of reincarnation. So, in that worldview, that was success. Even though So Yun is considered the founder, over 1,000 years before in the Shang dynasty, there are records of a cult to a goddess by the name of Shi Wang Mu. She lived on a Mount Kunlun, a sacred mountain that joined heaven and earth. She lived at the apex in a jade temple. On the side of the mountain, there was an orchard with peach trees. And once every 3,000 years, the peaches would bloom and produce fruit. And it was believed if you were lucky enough to live at a time when the peaches actually matured and you were able to ingest one, you would be able to obtain immortality. So even before Taoism was organized into religion, we have this proto-alchemical, very strong story about this goddess who is also known as the Queen Mother of the West. Mount Kunlun is an actual mountain in the west of China. And into the 9th and 10th century Common Era, we have records of what are known as the eight immortals. And these are eight beings who believe to have perfected the alchemical art to where they actually reached immortality. Of them, two are believed to be women. Here, Lancheng holding the basket of flowers, who originally was recorded as being female, and in later text had more of an androgynous, ambiguous gender identity, and then in much later text became male, if you will. But we always knew this one, Nchiango, was a female throughout history, a holder of the lotus of immortality. And her story and her symbolism is very, very alchemical in nature. She holds a lotus in one hand. In this particular image, she holds the scepter, showing her authority. She grants blessings with it. She grants boons with it. She's very beautiful. She has a cloud-like hair and head of ethereal quality. But her story was such that she was told when she was very young, she had a dream, a divine dream, and was told if she drank powdered mother of pearl, she would reach immortality. And she lived, after this, she lived a very ascetic lifestyle. She swore herself to virginity, as is the pattern in the ancient world we've seen over and over again, and ate very little, wandered the mountains, again, the association with the mountains, uh, picked herbs, did great things for people. Beautiful, beautiful story. But eventually, one day, she did drink the powdered mother of pearl, and she, in broad daylight, ascended to heaven. So these stories about women are very pervasive, in the ancient alchemy. And as you will see, later alchemy and alchemical internal transformation or meditation grew out of these stories. So here on one side, you see right behind me is Mount Kunlun. It's a diagram of it, and the head of it is in the heavens. I'm in the way here. The bottom of it is the earth, and the concept is the earth mother of the womb. Like if you watched my first video on alchemy, I talked about the ancient belief that the stones in the caves in the mountains of the mother were being gestated over a period of time and eventually would would become perfect and become gold. And the concept of this, of alchemy being the process of speeding that up, and not only being able to do that in the physical world, but of it being symbolic of what you do internally and as far as transforming yourself from a mere mortal into an immortal, into divinity, if you will, to someone full of wisdom and full of divine knowledge who breaks the cycle of samsara and lives eternally in the ethereal heavens. But anyway, the base of the mountain is on earth. The top of the mountain, of course, is symbolic of the heavens. And throughout this, all the different places within this mountain path are different chakras or energy centers along the way. So if you look at this other diagram, you can see a picture of somebody doing alchemical chakra breathing meditation. Okay, the concept is you breathe in and the air circulates and circulates, and you get to where it's just circulating around the sacral chakra, the second chakra here, which is basically where the womb, if you had one, would be. And to circulate the air to where it actually becomes like a furnace, and you're actually symbolically or maybe even physically regestating yourself and rebirthing yourself. If you're interested in this kind of meditation, Thomas Cleary, that's not going to show up for you, wrote a really great book called Taoist Meditation. I've had this one for a little while. There's probably later versions. And he has a chapter in here of, let's see, Zhang Zhang Zanfeng's Taiji Alchemical Secret. So it's actually alchemical meditation, which is practiced today. He tells in detail how to do this. I'm going to read just a tiny excerpt to kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. Once energy and breath are harmonized, then there is naturally no exit or no entry. In other words, your breath just goes round and round and doesn't really enter or exit your body. No coming or going above, in the middle, or below. This is womb breathing. This is spiritual breathing. This is the true bellows, the true cauldron and furnace. This is returning to the root and restoring life. This is the opening of the mysterious female, the root of heaven and earth. So the mysterious female, obviously this participant is male, we can see by the facial hair, but these things were written usually by males in a male world from a male perspective. And if you are going to be able to perfect this, somehow you have to be able to enter the mysterious female and grow a womb. So that's kind of what's going on. But this became part of the Taoist tradition, and as I say, is still practiced widely today. So in the Buddhist tradition, there's a philosopher who lived second to third century Common Era by the name of Nagarjuna. Very, very widely known, very, very deeply respected. He was the head of the Mahayana movement for a while. He was a philosopher, and in some texts, he was second only to Sakyamuni Buddha himself. He was that well revered. But he wrote a lot of treatises on alchemy. And within it, the meditation that was done is very much like the womb breathing that we've seen in the Taoist tradition. But his does add, instead of just gestating and giving birth in one's own womb, there's visualization of actually being in the middle of the lovemaking of the god and the goddess in terms that I will not repeat because I would blush. But if you're interested in reading that and practicing that meditation, a book by Lama Yeshe called The Bliss of the Inner Fire. Again, very detailed, too detailed for me, explanation of how this happens. But the inner fire is the same. It's sacral chakra meditation where the womb would be to actually gestate yourself in the prime material and make it into alchemical gold or perfection, if you will, and achieve immortality. Super interesting read. In Hinduism has really deep roots. I don't think there's any real texts that tell a lot of what happened in the early years, but there were texts about how in Arabia and parts of Europe there were yogis from India traveling there, and people were talking about them and how they used alchemy minerals to prolong their lives, and they believed that they could fly, and that they could perform miracles. But about the ninth century, another Nagarjuna appeared, probably in the same tradition of the Buddhist Nagarjuna. The Tantric tradition is what this grew out of, which began in Buddhism and spread into Hinduism as Hinduism grew and spread. But anyway, this Nagarjuna really established the alchemical culture as it flourished in India. And he called it killing Mercury. And he said that Shiva, remember Shiva of the triumvirate of the Hindu gods, is the mover and shaker, the one, the preserver and the destroyer. And he talked about how Shiva using mercury and you join it with sulfur or mica of the Shakti, and that is the female energy power. And when they come together, that makes the alchemical transformation. Now, if you got a chance to watch my video that I did on Kundalini, more is said about this. Shakti is female goddess energy. And it's usually exemplified through one of the goddesses, like Durga is a Shakti goddess, and Kali, who I talked about in depth in my Kundalini meditation video. She is an embodiment of Shakti energy, and when the Shakti energy of Kali and it has to actually stimulate, initiate the energy of Shiva, as was shown in that kind of meditation in that video. And when that happens, and only when that happens, their dance begins. They come together through the chakra system. Kali rises, she wakes up Shiva, and together they form the dance that helps one to reach immortality, to help one reach moksha, which breaks the cycle of samsara. But the point here is that the Shakti energy is what initiates it, and without it, nothing happens. It's all a matter actually of female embodiment and the female reproductive system. And of course, if you're going to give birth, you have to have the female reproductive system. So eventually, Shiva and Shakti, in the form of Kali, come together, and they form one. And this imagery of an androgynous god slash goddess, half and half, is pervasive not only in Hindu tradition, but as you will see when I do my next video on the West and Christian tradition, we see images like this too, half male, half female through the alchemical process. So when the Mercury, the male energy, is joined by the sulfur or the mica, the female energy, they come together and explode, and that's when the alchemical transformation happens. The female energy, the sulfur or the mica, has to actually initiate the action of the mercury to make it work. Remember, the queen goddess of the West, the Queen Mother, lived in a temple of jade. Jade also symbolizes harmony, virtue, protection, purity, and it's a bridge between heaven and earth. Just like the mountain Kunlun that she lived on is a bridge between heaven and earth. But the mountain also is symbolic throughout all cultures as the great mother, or the mother earth, if you will, and how she gestates life within her, deep within her womb, in her caves. The peaches we see of immortality. The peach, of course, if you look at it, looks very much like part of the female reproductive system. It's a very female symbol, but all of this is female embodiment. The embodiment of the female is such an important part of the whole understanding of the alchemical process and making it work. Heng Shiyu had to ingest mother of pearl. It's a symbolism, of course, of motherhood, the moon, water, feminine power, beauty, purity, and ethereal qualities. And if you look at what happens when she achieves immortality, how different the language is, how different the symbolism is. There's a very different kind of female immortality than that which is experienced by the male, drinking primarily the gold and becoming immortal. So the sulfur mica as an active female agent is also symbolically very important, because when sulfur or mica or one of the other active agents joins with mercury, it explodes blood red. Again, female reproductive imagery initiating the whole process of alchemy. So, how do we use this and become alchemists today? Well, here's how I do it, and I'd like to share this with you. I like to make an altar when I do these things. I prepared one here, but I couldn't get it to show up well, so I asked AI to help, and it missed on some counts, but we can work with this. Peaches, again, just to sort of symbolize what's going on here and symbolize the earth, the peach trees in the immortal orchard on the mountainside. Jade, this showed up in jade bowls and vases, which is nice, but you can just get a piece of jade. You might have a piece of jade jewelry. All these stones you can get like in a mineral store online for not very much, a small piece to put on an altar. Mother of pearl, this is an orb, but I have a mother of pearl ring that I use. Mother of pearl is used a lot in jewelry. It's used a lot as an inlay in like jewelry boxes. Or here is a lotus, which is hard to find in the West. If you can, that's great. It really should be floating in a bowl because that's what lotuses naturally do. But do put water in there. I like to use all four elements for balance. You have the peaches and the minerals from the earth, the water in the vase or the bowl. Get a gold or a red candle to symbolize the inner fire. And then I like to use, there's many ways you can symbolize air, but I like to use like a little censer. Sandalwood is a good Eastern based scent, and it's very mild. It's very, very good for meditation, I think, but you can play with that. But just seeing the smoke curl upwards is kind of ethereal, and it's an age-old ancient symbol of rising of the self from the earth to the heavens and giving offerings. But then meditate into do some wind breathing. By all means, meditate into your sacral chakra. This is the chakra that is in the womb area for us women. But a lot of texts say that it's at the navel or 2 inches below. You'll hear different ones say different things. But your chakras, remember, are just nerve ending inner plexus. So wherever that is, that power is, breathe into that part of your body. You'll be able to locate it and breathe into it slowly until you totally relax your whole body. And then consider this chakra is a center of emotion. It's a center of sensuality, of pleasure, but it's the center of creativity too. And a lot of ancient texts say that is actually the center of one's own personality. So breathe into it, meditate on what your true personality is, and consider these things. How are you using your creative energy? Is it bringing you pleasure? Are your emotions helping or hindering you, or your emotional state right now? Is it working for you? And here's the alchemical transformation. How can you transform your energy, your time, your emotions, your creative flow in a way that it serves you and you feel like you are being your true self? So I'm going to end on that note. Be sure and subscribe so you won't miss my video blog on alchemy in the West. It's quite fascinating. I think there's some things there that will really surprise you. But as I sign off, I want to leave you with this little closing meditation, this little thought to ponder. If you could achieve immortality, if you could in this lifetime figure out how to live forever, would you want to? I'm Lori, the Oracle Scholar, wishing you peace, grace, and joy.